Hi, my name is Sabrina Kaczynski. I will be conducting an interview with Devin. This interview is with her consent, and she will be discussing 27 questions about her experiences in Belize. Okay. What is the country you visited?
Belize. That's in Central America.
What is your home country?
America.
Can you describe the culture of your home country?
In America, it's very, what's the word? I don't know. A lot of people, like the main goal, I think, of like having a perfect life in America is like having a good job and making like a certain amount of money per year, having a family, and I don't know, it's very, like, I don't know, fast-paced and very competitive. It's very individualized. You're not like looking out for another person. It's only about you and like what you gain out of something, especially in the workforce. It's like just like about like you, and yeah.
Okay. Prior to going to Belize, what were your expectations of this place?
So I went to Belize for a study abroad course for my school. So I was going to be conducting research about turtles while I was there. And my professor kind of told us beforehand what we would be experiencing, since we would be kind of in the more poor areas of Belize. He told us how we wouldn't have internet while we were there, except for this one tiny little table in the middle of nowhere where we could get service only from certain times of the day, and we wouldn't have like warm showers, and so it was going to be definitely like a big culture shock. So I think that's what I was going to be experiencing, and it was my first time going to like a third world country, so I was kind of experiencing, or like in my mind I was like, all right, I'm gonna walk in here and just be like completely culture shocked, like
Right.
not know what the heck anything is.
Were your expectations met? So, like, essentially, did what you just described, is that how it was when you got there?
Yes. I was like, I don't know, it was very different.
Yeah. So what were the biggest differences, since you said it's different, that you initially noticed when you got there?
All the roads were dirt. That was like the main thing. So like once you've gotten out of the main city of like the main, like, I don't know what the city was we flew into, but once you kind of got out of like that main city area, it was all dirt roads. So that was the main thing. It was the first time I saw like houses that were like on stilts and like not mud huts, but like they were made out of like used like pieces of like scrap metal and stuff. So that was like the main thing that I noticed.
For somebody other than like, doing maybe touristy things, or even something that, you had planned as part of your program, what would be the typical day in Belize for just everyday people?
Ooh, I can't say for that because I'm not entirely sure, but where we were on the little island, it's kind of like here in Thailand where you wake up and you go to your job and you do your craft and you work, and that's kind of it. The school system there is not really prevalent, so kids don't go to school, they go to work with their parents, so you're working all day. The men go out to find food, the women cook the food, and then that's kind of it. That's like the daily routine.
So in comparison to America, did you find yourself while you were there saying, oh, that's not how it was in America? Like often comparing your home country to Belize?
Yeah, especially like with like the heat level. I've never experienced like heat like it was because it's a tropical climate. I'd never experienced humidity or bugs in the way that I did there. So I was like, oh, like in California, we don't have humidity. So that was, yeah, definitely comparing about that.
Yeah. Before getting to Belize, did you make it a priority to research where you were going, or was that like something that you wanted to do, or you didn't even think about looking into?
I kind of looked at the history of Belize, just because I wanted to know like the language of everyone there. So kind of, but not really. I kind of wanted it to be more of like a surprise, I guess, when I got there.
So you already said this. You experienced culture shock, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So there are many levels of culture shock. I don't know if you're fully aware of the exact levels. The main levels are the honeymoon stage, which you'll be happy everything is glamorous in the beginning. Disorientation, which that is when you feel a little bit out of whack, maybe confused on where you are. It just doesn't feel the same. The next stage would be irritability and hostility, which is when you kind of start resenting the culture that you're in because maybe it's just not how it is. It's not what you're comfortable with. So you start getting angry at the way people do things just because it's not how you do it. The next one is adjustment, which is how you do get adjusted to the culture. You start accepting it, adapting better to it. And the last one would be integration with bicultural. So it's essentially saying that you're able to have Belize's culture integrated with your culture. You're able to fully understand and accept both cultures that you have. With that being said, do you think you experienced any of those levels, or if not any, or some maybe, or all of them?
Yeah. Honeymoon, I don't think I was in the honeymoon stage because I feel like right when we got there, it was like, all right, like this is what it is. Like there wasn't really a honeymoon about it because right off the bat, like you are put into a room with no AC, no shower, no internet. So already
so
you're
it's
just
not like, oh my god, I want to move here.
It was not a glamorous situation at all. So like you're kind of like automatically like put into the second stage of like culture. Like you're so uncomfortable. Like the bugs was like the main thing with me. Like I remember waking up like and having like 20 bug bites just like covering my legs, and like I felt so uncomfortable with the heat, and like I was like miserable for the first week because I just wasn't used to it, and I got sunburned. That was even worse. And so that was like I felt so uncomfortable for the first week, and then the second week I kind of started like integrating more into the culture because we got used to like the heat, and then we started to integrate more with the people who lived with us. So that was that was fun, but I don't think I was there long enough to like experience like integrating their culture with mine, or like the honeymoon phase, like I said, or like even like kind of adjusting to it because it was automatically just like uncomfortable, like right off the bat.
Would you describe their culture as individualistic or collectivistic?
Definitely collective. Who we stayed with, they were one giant family, and they all were calling each other like, oh, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my aunt. But in reality, none of them were related.
Right.
So, yeah, it was definitely like a big family culture.
What were things that are considered polite in your culture versus in Belize? Or things that are polite in Belize that are not?
So like finishing all of your food was the main thing. Everything there is, like I said, it's a third world country. Third world country, so they did not appreciate you not finishing your food or water or anything like that. So if you didn't finish your food, that was like a sign of like disrespect to the person who's giving you food. Also not like being picky. Like if someone gives you something and you say, oh, I don't want this, that's like very offensive to them. And I think the other thing was like talking about like your body image. So like they don't use phrases like skinny or fat or anything like that. So like talking about someone's body image is like very disrespectful, whereas in the US like I feel like that's like a common like everyday topic is like talking about your body. So but yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, I didn't really notice anything else that was like super polar opposite.
So then would you say that in America, well, you already stated about body image being something that we harp on. So would you say in America it would be rude, or it would be okay to like not finish your meal? in that case versus?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, I mean, I myself have, like, not finished a meal, or, like, I've had, like, a couple of bites, and I'm like, oh, I'm full, or, like, I know, like, my parents always ask me, like, oh, will you eat that later as, like, a leftover, and I'll say no, and it's, like, no big deal to just, like, send it away. Yeah, right. To just waste food.
Okay, so along with that, what would you say your personal values versus Belize are? Maybe they clash, or maybe you had similar things in common with them?
I had a lot of things in common with them. They were very in tune with the natural resources that were around them. So on the island, they had a lot of coconut trees, so they had a very special bond with, like, the coconuts. So the women would go out and climb the tree, the men would go out and, like, climb the trees, and they would get the coconuts, and then they would use the coconuts as oil, milk, water, and then they would use the shell to create jewelry, and that was, like, the main practice, or, like, the, like, art there was making jewelry and other, like, tools out of, like, the coconut shells. I forgot the question.
I was just saying that the like, personal values.
Oh, right.
So you're saying they take advantage of natural resources.
Yeah,
which is something that is important to you.
Yeah, I really loved how they were very in tune with, like, their surrounding area, and they were very respectful of the area that was around them. So they lived on a manatee preservation. So with, like, the turtles that were around, and they laid their eggs there, there were manatees all around the island, and so they knew that at certain times you can't go out into the water, and it's also, like, illegal to touch a manatee. So they were very respectful of everything around them, and me personally like to think about my environment around me, and I wish in the U.S. people were more conscious about the environment around them and not
just using it.
Yeah, especially because, I mean, like, for them, they could easily, a really big problem in Belize is killing the turtles and using their shells as jewelry or, like, anything. So, like, they could easily do that if they wanted to, but they've made it, like, a priority to save the turtles instead.
Right. So that was a main big personal value for you.
Yeah.
So do people in your culture in America, do they like to take risk, or do they like to stay in more of a comfortable stage as far as maybe traveling or just different cultures in general, anything of that sort?
I think with our generation, like, anybody in their, like, early 20s are a little bit more risky than, say, like, our parents. Right. I know, like, when my parents were younger, like, they were scared of the other cultures, because they didn't know what to expect, and back then, like, so much stuff was going on, and some people still have this notation that traveling is dangerous. Right. Because something can happen. So I think for the most part, people still kind of have that idea that traveling is dangerous.
And you think the younger generations are changing that?
I think culture? So. I think so. Yeah, I think a lot of younger people want to experience more culture. I want to see the world and see what's out there, but I think, like, for the most part, some people, at least who I know, are kind of like, well, I like where I am, and I want to start a family here, and they kind of like their routine. I think, like, the U.S. especially, we're very caught up in, like, a routine.
Right. Yeah. Would you agree that maybe social media and the access, maybe more access, the technology advancements definitely...
For sure.
Play a role in why people like to travel more now?
Yeah, Pinterest and Instagram, for sure.
Did you notice any, or did you experience any obvious or differences in gender roles that you have at home?
Definitely. I think in Belize especially, they do have gender roles there, but it's not disrespectful in any way. So the women cook and clean, but I didn't feel it was, like, I don't know, like a disrespectful kind of way. I mean, it's their tradition, so obviously that's what they want. But some of the women came out with us, and they were like, had machetes to, like, cut down the trees when we were, like, going through the jungle. So
it's not like it's just a man thing to hold up.
No, definitely not. But yeah, for the most part, like, the men were the ones who were like who would go out and who would like drive the boats and all that. And the women would stay home and like cook for us. The women were the only ones who were cooking for us. So yeah, that was kind of like the main thing. And I know like for a fact that the women are the ones who like have a craft usually, and it's the man who like works and goes out.
Does the labor for it, essentially.
Yeah.
How do you feel, I don't know if this is applicable or not, but if somebody there, or if they did do it, criticize your culture at home, did anyone, like, while you were there, make comments about America or something that made you maybe feel uncomfortable, or just in general, maybe in perspective you didn't see before?
No, not when I was, no, definitely, I don't think so. Nobody said anything that was, like, disrespectful. They kind of just had questions.
About America.
About, America, because they're very curious, and they had a lot of, like, stereotypical questions about, like, especially California, like, oh, do you surf? And all these, like, very stereotypical questions. But no, they're just curious, nothing mean or anything.
Did you feel a need at any time that you had to preserve or defend your culture when you were asked these questions?
No, not really.
Okay. To sum up the main differences in their culture, what would you say?
I think the main thing was the collectiveness that was there versus the U.S., because I know, like, with them, like I said, like, they were considering other people who weren't their family, and everyone who lived on that island worked with one another, and they knew everybody.
So a lot more teamwork.
Yeah, and everybody knew everyone.
Right.
Like, you know your neighbors, you know everybody. I feel like that's kind of, that's how the U.S. used to be. Like, you used to know all your neighbors, but nowadays, like, I don't even know my neighbors anymore. So I think that's the main thing, that everybody wants to help one another, and they're genuinely caring towards other people, whereas I don't think the U.S. is, that we've lost that. Like, we don't care really anymore about others.
Would you go back to Belize?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And would you recommend this country to other people?
I definitely would. It's like in the city part, like the main city, Belize City, I think that's what it's called. I don't know, the main city in Belize. It's a lot more, it's up and coming, I think.
Right.
But still like a third world country. But if you definitely want like a culture shock moment, and you want a taste of the French, because they used to be controlled by the French, but it's also very tropical. If you want like a good place to go snorkeling, it's a good place to go snorkeling. But yeah, definitely would recommend it.
Would you say there's anything that could improve your experience while you were there?
Staying there longer.
Yeah. What would be your favorite part of the trip that you got to experience?
I think it was when we caught the turtle that we were, so what we did was we would go out at 2 a.m. and we would walk up and down the beaches, and we would have a guide who would like have a flashlight, because there would be alligators and scorpions and other crazy critters running around. So we got to talk to the other volunteers of this program, and so it was really nice to just like talk to them. And I became very close with our homestay mom, and her name was Nancy, and I think it was like 4 a.m. and we were talking about like veganism and about how the U.S. needs to appreciate animals more. So I just like, I don't know, it was a moment of like, it's 4 a.m. and I'm having a deep conversation with this woman who's like a local, and it was really like the time where I like embedded myself with their culture, I think.
That's great. What advice would you give someone from America before they go to Belize?
Keep an open mind, because you'll see things that are hard to see if you're not used or don't really have it in your head. Like, I'm going to be seeing children with no clothes, no shoes, and just like preparing yourself for what you're going to see, I think.
Right. Do you think you said this, but do you think you needed more time in Belize to fully understand their culture?
Definitely. I was only there for 4 weeks, so yeah, more time there would be nice.
And if you could use 3 attributes to define your overall experience, what would they be?
Eye-opening, risky, and what's another one? I want to say life-altering, but yeah, life-altering.
That's all the questions I have for you today. Is there anything else you want to share with me about Belize before we finish this interview?
Nope. Oh, plantains. I fell in love with plantains when I was there. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.